What is up, guys? It's Stu, and it's another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. This is another one of those video reactions. I just did one recently where I did a reaction to Best Hour of their Day's announcement that they're dubbed the official CrossFit business mentoring entity, and I did that, and a lot of you guys, a lot of you laughed, a lot of you really enjoyed it. I got a lot of nice messages saying that they thought that was extremely entertaining. And but a lot of you hit me up thinking that, like, oh, you're just picking on them because they're your competitor, like you guys aren't friends, or like you're just picking on another person in your space. And here's the deal: I wasn't picking on anyone. If anyone makes content in this space that I too am a part of, and I think it's going to be educational and entertaining for my audience to give my 2 cents on it, I'm gonna fucking do it. And so just like to justify this, or not justify it, but to play on the other side, I'm doing a reaction video today on someone who's a very good friend and then colleague of mine, Sean Pastuch. And you might put us in this category, you know, we have very similar messages and things like that. So I'm gonna go through, I'm doing a reaction to his video. Although I will say it's not going to be in the same tone and an angle as the Best Hour of their day, but I'm doing one that I want to give some really good business insight of my thoughts of it at the industry at whole, as he announced this previous week that they are opening their first brick and mortar. And this is very exciting because you guys got to understand, when you're an online, like he had a brick and mortar business. He's had brick and mortar gyms, brick and mortar chiropractor. When you have that, and then you go to the online space like he's been in with Active Life for the past, I don't know, however many years, you have something called insanely fucking dope as hell profit margins. Okay, it's a very technical term, and what that means is that we do not have the absolute, the overhead, the expense of this rent and all the things, and as much staff, though his operation has a good amount of staff, as a brick and mortar would. And there's a lot of relief with that, especially during COVID. I guarantee you guys like Sean and myself, is when I looked at WTF, maybe not Urban Movement, my micro gym that I had, but like we were really relieved we were in the online space. There's so many good things that allow your life to have when you're in the online space. So the fact that he's going brick and mortar might be a shock for any of you guys who are kind of business savvy, and you're like, well, why in the fuck would he want to do that? My God, why does he need to have rent? And then, that's what I want to do today, because I look at this and I'm uber proud of him. I'm very proud because I'll tell you this, I don't think he wanted to open up a brick and mortar. And he even says so here in the beginning of the podcast. We'll look at it in a second. He doesn't want to own a brick and mortar. But what that company has evolved into, if you don't know the history of it, they went from, helping individuals get out of pain without having to see the doctor or go to or miss the gym. And then they started helping coaches learn what they knew to help people get out of pain without having to go see a doctor or miss the gym. And now that's evolved into, well, what we have our coaches do is so unique. There's nowhere for them to do that work, right? They can't go to the typical CrossFit gym. They can't go to the Globo gym. So we need to help gyms convert over to this model, this active life model. And they've been doing that. It's called ProPath, and they have a lot of gyms that are in this. I've had the pleasure of doing consulting work or copywriting work with a bunch of Sean's ProPath gyms. And now, as I see it, me and Sean talk about this, frequently. We get on a call once a month with a couple other people, and we talk shop to sell the idea of, hey, gym owner, let's take this conceptual active life model brick and mortar, and I need you to commit to it. I need you to remove the CrossFit thing, rip the Band-Aid off, do it, and translate it over to this other thing that I've never actually stood up. Like, he could have kept selling that. He could have. Sean's a good enough salesman. He could fucking sell anything to anybody. But I know, him and his staff kind of came together and said, listen, if we want to, get other people to put their faith in us, we need to put our money where our mouth is. And we need to prop up our own brick and mortar. Now, there's a lot of other reasons to do it. And, let me just cut to this real quick. Let's just watch this part. And those of you guys on the podcast listening, audio, you'll be good. If you're watching the visual of it, this works too.
Hi, welcome back to the Active Life Podcast. I'm Dr. Sean Pastuch. I'm your host. And I have exciting news for you today. We decided to open our own Active Life brick and mortar space right here in Long Beach, New York. Full disclosure, this was not a part of my plan, but it was something that members of our team believed was extremely important for us to do if we wanted to be able to share with the world what the full expression of our vision looks like.
So that's exactly what I was talking about. Like, obviously, if they have their own brick and mortar, they're not having to learn of the obstacles that their brick and mortar locations have through Zoom calls and things of that. They're actually going to experience them firsthand with the financial pressures that their pro path gyms are experiencing. The rent payments, this, having to get leads in, all that stuff. So the tone of this entire thing, the reason I said it's going to be different than the best hour of the day video where that was maybe more comedic relief. I want to talk about this from an actual business standpoint. I think this is so fucking interesting, and I think there may be other future online models where, like, essentially an online company is teaching you ways to do it in your brick and mortar and in such a specific way. Like, no offense, there's not going to be any WTF gym talk brick and mortar because I'm not telling you how to do it a specific way. You tell me you're a health club, you tell me you're a boutique Pilates studio, you tell me you're a CrossFit gym. I understand the various business models vastly enough that I don't need you to conform to a very specific way of doing it. And I'm not doing anything that hasn't already been done really well. Sean's version of a group class and how he believes this hybrid would exist between individual coaching and a group class experience has not been done at scale. So there needs to be testing. Now, he's got these pro path gyms that have, that have hoisted the Active Life flag. They are doing it and experimenting with it, but this will allow it to be so much faster when he can actually have his eyes on it. And I just need you guys to understand, like, I don't know what Sean's profit margin is. We've talked numbers and stuff. I know this is not a small business from an operation, a staff, or a financial standpoint. They had a fuck up recently, and Sean worded it so well. He calls me one day. I'm like, getting out of the gym, and he's like, "We just lit a Lamborghini on fire," and I'm like, "Oh fuck, is this like some cool content play? Like, did you like do like one of those like reaction videos, like a David Dobrik, like gonna do something crazy?" He goes, No. We didn't actually light an actual Lamborghini on fire, but we could have with the amount of money we have lost it due to this fuck up. And to lose a Lamborghini level of money in a single fuck up, it's a big business. The whole point is that I'm trying to get across here. So I want to listen to Sean a little bit more here, and then I want to talk about, for anyone who is looking at this and looking at Sean creating a proof of concept, and maybe you've been thinking about, hey, I've got this idea in my head, but I've got this CrossFit gym or I've got this whatever gym, and I don't think I could sell my idea unless I open up an actual proof of concept. Do I need to retrofit my current CrossFit into my new version? I just want to talk about this a little. I obviously went through a lot of this when I had CrossFit South End, and I had a new idea, so I had to completely strip it down and relocate it and rebrand it and change the whole operating system. So just that's going to be the overall gist of today's podcast.
They felt like it would help us think through some things that right now we're fortunate to have clients from around the world who help us think it through, but they felt like it could accelerate some of the processes that we're trying to build by doing it on our own. And I have its very first wanted to talk about this on the podcast. I've learned a lot of things because I think it's important that it do. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, it's my belief that you are trying to understand what we're trying to do. Maybe not because you want to do it yourself, maybe because you do. But at least in part because there are elements of what we do that you find valuable, that you want to weave into your process, into your business, into your thoughts. And I appreciate that about you.
And I'll add to it, just like what I was saying a second ago, anyone who listens to this podcast of Sean's or listening to this reaction video of mine, even if you're not planning on doing an active life, there's going to be so many lessons here to be learned as far as it goes to, if you believe in something so much so that fucking gnat or some fucking bug in here, god damn it, you believe in something so strongly that you're building a business around it. Hell, you've sold other people to convert their businesses to it, or you're creating content at scale about it. And if it truly is a unique brick and mortar experience and you've only talked about it on spec, right? You're only speculating how this is going to go. You don't actually have it like live in front of you. You might have other people doing it, right? Like this is, there was examples of this. I don't want to name any names, but there were examples of this of guys who were doing programming, box programming, like gym programming for gyms back in the day. And they would sell, I think it was like around 400 or so bucks a month. They would sell programming to tons of different gyms. And there was some feedback that a lot of customers, because I worked with a lot of them, they'd be like, yeah, they write this programming, but I don't think they're testing it out inside of an actual gym that has, certain constraints, pattern flows of people coming in and people leaving. And like, looking at my facility at 2,000 square feet versus a facility of 5,000, I don't think they've actually put the tires to the, to the pavement to see if this thing really spins the right way or whether it's just in their head and they haven't actually had to meet the realities of the actual brick and mortar. And I see this as very similar. So anyone who's listening to this or Sean's original podcast on this, and you're not considering to do an active life, I still think you need to really take inspiration from this and find a way for you, if you are proclaiming there's a different way to do shit, to actually go test it out. Don't be talking shit about something you have not seen in real life. You've not put the actual test to. You haven't actually stress tested it and seen it out in the wild.
First things first, one of the interesting problems that we find as a company in explaining to people what the full expression of active life looks like when executed at their brick and mortar is that most of the gyms who are working with us, I would say about 70%, are coming from the CrossFit life. What that means is these are gym owners who opened CrossFit gyms and who, along a period of time, decided that they are no longer ideologically aligned with CrossFit. Whether that's because of the entity, the people who work there, the education, the kinds of workouts, they all have their own reasons. But they find us as a resource who is sharing beliefs and values that they are aligned with at this phase of their life.
And I'm definitely, like, the reason I think CrossFit gyms are such a good fit for something like active life, it's just because you guys are just utilizing the most complicated strength and conditioning protocol for the general physical population that is in existence. There is no more complicated exercise program for commercial application with regular people than CrossFit, which leads to a host of injuries and issues and needing to modify and, having to really understand the human body way more than a weekend certification can allow you. And Sean's company has really dedicated themselves to being able to break that down for the layman. Let me take a bunch of schooling. Like Sean was he is a chiropractor. His coaches have really spent a lot of time breaking down human movement and finding ways to assess and then improve human movement and giving it to gym owners. But when you're Sean, he was going from selling education now to selling a business model. And that's a big fucking step. Anyone who does like what I do in the space of business consulting understands, again, let me use the affiliate, you guys, best hour of their day. They're essentially now, for CrossFit affiliates, going to be selling a business model. Now, they've got the, Fern owns a gym, so he can say he's tested these things out. Ackerman owned a gym. Marcus owned a gym. So those guys can all say, like, hey, we've tested this in a real life brick and mortar. We have the proof of concept. Okay? Now, if none of them own gyms, I believe only one does now, but if none of them own gyms and they were pitching, this is how it's done, and it never had been tested, like it's a new theory or a new play, that's a problem. Even when I pitch shit with WTF, 99% of everything I give right now, I've done at either the health club level or I've done in my own brick and mortar. And I've definitely 100,000% done it with a ton of with client gyms, okay? There will be a time where if I don't get back inside other gyms, like if I don't fuck with Metabolics, if I don't go fuck around with the Pilates studios or these new hybrid models, if I'm not traveling all over to go see Stephen Hitt's Industrious in-place model, if I'm not traveling and getting inside of it and seeing it in operation and talking with the creators and the staff and seeing it fucking work, but I'm just making cute little fucking, reels about it, that's bullshit, right? I'm just talking with spec. right? Speculatively that I think this is the thing, even though I've never really seen the thing, but like you've got to get in there and get your fucking hands dirty. And as Sean's saying, people don't understand this full expression of active life because he hasn't had that brick and mortar to get his own hands dirty on. So now he's taking on the huge financial responsibility of leasing a place. He just released a video today showing it. Leasing a spot. He's going to completely renovate it. He's going to create the model, the gym, kind of like the showroom, if you will, where other active life potential ProPath gyms can come in and fucking walk around and see what it's like and be like, oh shit. And then, he can essentially use that blueprint design to help create this license model, which is essentially what he's creating. And, it's super interesting, man. I saw Jason do this with NC Fit when they launched their license model. I had him on the podcast. I've talked extensively with Jim Crowell, who is the former CEO of OPEX when they launched their license model. If you got the proof of concept already, like NC Fit and OPEX did, great. If you don't, like Sean doesn't have the proof of concept. That again, on a long enough timeline, you're not gonna be able to service your customers as well. So if you're sitting here and you're like, I've got this great idea, well, you got to make that idea come to life, motherfucker. You got to make it dance. I didn't license out Urban Movement until I had been in there 4 years, and I had made it dance, I had made it work, and I had very strong ideas to how I could make this work in retrofitting another CrossFit gym, because that's exactly what I did, is I retrofitted it. I got some other points here I want to make, but let's fast forward through this real quick.
If we had our own location, it would make it easier for us to point to this is how it's done here. The aesthetic of an active life right now still looks like a CrossFit gym because most of our clients, or a HIIT studio really, but most of our clients, while they've evolved their business and their fitness models, credit to Stu Brower for defining those two as very separate things. And
That a boy, Sean. See, Sean's the kind of motherfucker who gives credit where credit's due. It's one thing I like about him. That and his hair.
I think he articulates it well. They haven't changed the way that their facilities look. They haven't changed all of the staff who work in their facilities, which, by the way, is not a necessary part of working with us. In fact, we would prefer.
He's so damn accurate on that whole aesthetic. So Sean's ProPath gyms, we can assume, are probably former CrossFit or HIIT studios, and they adopt the active life model, but they still look like a duck. They might not be walking like a duck, but they still look like a goddamn duck. That was my biggest thing when I opened up Urban Movement. Yeah, I dropped the affiliate of CrossFit South End. Yeah, I changed the building. Yeah, I made the building even prettier. But like it actually, when people walked in, I could not allow anyone to walk in and say, oh, this is a CrossFit gym. And it took me 2 years to really to fully make that entire thing go away. Nobody at the last iteration of Urban Movement with the hanging rings and the pick a spot model and the absence of the rig and the 7-foot barbell and all that shit, nobody ever walked in and goes, oh, this is a CrossFit gym. And that takes a long time. So now with Sean being able to sit there and get his hands on the aesthetic of this, he's going to be able to supply people with, hey, go to these vendors for millage for the front desk. Go to these vendors for the lights or for the background or the this or the that or the murals or the decals or whatever the fuck it may be. Here's the fucking kits we recommend to make your bathrooms look dope, right? Here's the fucking taglines and phrases and a vinyl decal company that'll ship them to you and you can put on the walls or whatever they end up doing, right? And that is so fucking important. You can't just change the operating system of your micro gym like I did. You're getting rid of CrossFit, installing tempo training. Okay. That was the fitness model. My fitness model was CrossFit. I replaced it with tempo training. Okay. Now my business model was still the same. It's still a micro gym. It's still all the exact same headaches and rewards as my CrossFit gym did. Okay. For Sean's installing a new operating system, right? A new fitness model, a new delivery system into these gyms, but he's also going to have to go and make these subsequent tweaks. There's still going to be micro gyms. They're still subject to the same issues that the CrossFit gym down the street and the HIIT studio down the street will be subject to, but on different, right? His price point is higher, the service is different, but at the end of the day, at its roots, we're still very much in line with, hair salons and spa, massage, parlors, not the jerk off kind, those two, but like, the regular massage MVs, that kind of shit, the franchise models. Those are like, we're all still have the same pluses and minuses of that model. But now the dude is going and fucking writing a fucking check and investing all this money to lay it out. This is exactly how it should look. And if you're not having success as a ProPath gym or a gym that's been adopting our ways, it's probably because you don't look the part, right? You ever know someone who's like a complete fucking drunk slob? This is such a fucked up analogy. Like someone who's the town drunk, right? You see him all the time. He's at the bar. He's whatever. He's fucking worthless, right? He's always looking a little scruffy, like he slept in his clothes. Well, if he got his shit together, like he changed, he found Jesus, right? He got a job, right? He started paying his child support, okay? He fucking got, the creams and salves for his fucking STDs. He's got his shit together. But homeboy still fucking walked around in clothes like he fucking slept, like he slept in them. He slept in the backseat of his car. You would just make the assumption he hasn't changed. For those of you guys that are still, like, you've been trying to change your CrossFit model, right? And maybe you have. You're like, Stu, I've got my own, unique belief in fitness. I've got something completely different now. But you look exactly the same. The rig is still there. And maybe you're still going to use a rig. But, like, the color, like, again, and I know everyone's like, well, is it really that big a deal of a rig? Well, no. Is it really that big deal because of the paint color? Well, no. Is it really that big deal because of the flags? Well, no. But, you dumb fuck, all those things added up. Those are a big deal. Branding is not one thing. It's not 5 things. It's like 39 different things, 109 different things, whatever it is. It's a ton of little things. That's what creates an experience, not like one big change. Or like, oh, well, I'm not going to get rid of the rig, Stu. Like, you could do something different. You could do what my boy Jeremy did down at Rage and Fitness Co. Got rid of a rig and installed individual folding squat racks from like the PRX company, I think, or maybe he had the Rogue versions, I don't know. And he got them all branded, like powder coated his brand colors, and now everyone has their own squat rack station, pull-up bar, barbell, everything. So yeah, it actually does make a big fucking difference. Aesthetics for the win. Sean's right.
All of your staff stay in place. The thing is, if your place still looks the same, if your place still has the same equipment, if your place is still in the same location, if the staff who work there are still the same staff, if the uniforms are still the same uniforms, it's difficult for the members to understand what's so different.
And I want to talk about the staff on this. This is one that when you make serious changes and the staff doesn't move at all, I promise you there's disgruntled people who are not on board. There is no way that you have a staff of 9 and you make a serious operating change, right? Your fitness methodology, your fitness model changes significantly, okay? Like what's happening when these gyms go from CrossFits to Active Lifes, or any of the licensees that I was going to be working with that were going from CrossFits or whatever they were to Urban Movements. That is a serious operating change. Well, when that happens, the odds of you keeping everybody happy on staff and them sticking around and them still wanting to be a part of this new unique belief in fitness, this UBF, slim and fucking none, my friends. Slim and none. So if you tell me, yeah, man, we changed everything, it's so much different, blah, blah, and I say, all right, man, that sounds awesome. Tell me, like, how was the staff turnover? How was that fallout? Oh, no, we kept everybody. Like, dude, you're either the best fucking salesman in the world or your staff is not feel open about talk. Like they're not telling you the truth. There's definitely a disconnect there. There should be some fallout. There should be some new skin shed. There should be like a changeover. Like fucking look what happened when Eric Rosa took over at CrossFit as CEO. First thing that motherfucker does, man, he's got to get rid of the old guard, right? Castro's out, right? I know he's back now, but like when a new change is coming in, it is generally okay for some of that staff to shed with the old model, right? It's not a horrible thing. And if anyone here has truly, I mean, like you literally changed everything and you kept everybody and you know they're fucking not bullshitting you, you've polygraph tested all those fuckers, and you want to come on the podcast and tell me how you did it, I would love to hear it.
everything, all the chips on the table, and open up our own space from scratch, that many gym owners are ready to open up their own space from scratch. And while we have helped over 100 gyms in the last 2 years to evolve their model, to help them make more money, to help them create careers for their staff, to help them serve a new audience, what we have not done is help the gym open, find a location, secure a lease, hire staff, run a pre-sale, design the space.
This is huge, and this will probably be towards the end of the podcast on this. I got to fucking go, but this is the thing. When you retrofit gyms, and I had this entire conversation with my staff when we were doing the urban movement license. I'm like, guys, we're going to be retrofitting gyms, meaning they already have an existing clientele built in, okay? Which means we will lose some people, which means education, influence, and essentially brainwashing, or just getting them to fall in line with this new unique belief in fitness is going to be the most imperative part. However, when you get somebody that wants to start it from scratch, meaning that's a concept gym, right? It's going from zero, like idea on a back of a bar napkin, to lease signing to grand opening. That's a different story. Like like just Sean said, there's so much more involved on the real estate side, on the pre-sale side. I mean, I just did a podcast that's dropped on all about pre-sales. That's been so much of my work in 21 and 22 because there've been a lot of new gyms opening. It's funny. Banks are giving money to concepts, like they're giving money to establish startups, establish concepts, multiple proof of concepts, part of a franchise or a license model. They're not giving money to one-offs. Like, I've got an idea. I want to expand my current idea. They're not giving a lot of money to that to gyms because they're still gun shy from COVID. So Sean's got to come up with a plan here that is going to, maybe he's got to make partnerships with some lenders, maybe Rig Equipment and Clayton Ferrer, they can create a partnership there and help be able to finance the upfit and finance the equipment and shit like that, because opening up fresh new locations is going to be difficult. It's one thing when Jason did the NC Fit partnership, me and him were talking, is like he had already had so much experience opening up multiple locations, right? Because they had so many corporately owned multiple locations. They had a really good foundation for helping gym owners with that were going to be a part of their license model, right? This is somewhere where Sean is self-admittedly saying, we haven't done this shit yet. We've been retrofitting gyms that have already had the leases and all that other stuff. We haven't had to go this route. Hey, who knows? Maybe if Sean had a buddy who had opened up a real estate company for gym owners to help them buy and lease buildings, maybe they could do something together. That'd be interesting. Huh. What do you think, Sean? Huh? Anyway, you guys, I want to end this here. I just wanted to give some commentary on it. I want people, I hope this podcast just didn't, if you listen to Sean's stuff, it just didn't go one ear and out the other. I'm a huge fan of the moves he's making. He's actually coming on the podcast today. I think he's actually coming on today. So you're getting this now. I recorded this earlier, but today that you're listening to this is when Sean's coming on. I'm recording another one, and I'm going to play back and forth with him on a lot of the stuff that we discussed here. And I'm real excited, and I hope it gives inspiration for those of you who have an idea, and maybe you've been able to sell it to other people, get them to change their model, but you've never actually tested it yourself. And I think you can see, Sean's done this with hundreds of gyms without his own brick and mortar. He's a good enough salesman to do so, but ethically I know Sean, and I know Sean wants to do it as well as humanly possible and taking on this risk. Because think about it. What if he shits the bed? Think about it. This is Sean Pastuch. He's not dumb. He's like, listen, I believe in this thing, but again, getting the leads and signing them up and running a gym and having all the operations that go into owning a gym that he knows and I know and you guys know, it's fucking heavy on top of running this multi-million-dollar online business that already exists. So what if he shits the bed? He's putting his entire reputation on this thing. If this brick and mortar thing goes down poorly, right? If fucking Larry starts cooking meth in the back of the gym and Super Clary's shooting pornos in the fucking lobby and all this shit and everyone cancels and there's a MRSA infection, I'm just coming up with bullshit. But if it all goes to hell in a handbasket, Sean's risking so fucking much putting his reputation on this. and experimenting with it. It'd be so much easier for him to just continue to pitch it digitally. That's it. But I respect the fuck out of Sean for this kind of, like, for doing something like this. I truly, truly do. I don't think he's going to shit the bed. If I'm a betting man, and I am, I know Sean's not going to shit the bed on this, because I truly think his model does fill a white space, and a very profitable white space, because he's dealing with people who are in pain. And there's nothing more profitable than people who want to get out of pain right now. So anyway, guys, keep an eye on what Sean's doing. Check out the podcast whenever that drops with me and Sean. And again, until I see you or talk to you in the next podcast, have a great motherfucking day.